All hell is breaking loose across the globe, and Donald Trump is nowhere to be seen. He hasn't surfaced since that disastrous State of the Union, leaving world leaders to take note of his weakness. I mean, let's just look at the headlines. Kim Jong-un just announced that North Korea is expanding its nuclear arsenal, increasing both weapons production and operational capacity. And what do we hear from Donald Trump? Nothing. Not a word from his State Department, not a single comment from his Department of Defense, not even a hint of action. Absolute silence. Meanwhile, China has flown massive drone operations over Taiwan, 23 confirmed flights since August alone. They're rehearsing a possible invasion, and once again, Trump and his team have nothing to say. No strategy, no warnings, no public response. Just more evidence of a Trump administration that is completely missing in action. And then there's Cuba. A Florida-registered speedboat allegedly entered Cuban waters and opened fire on border guards. 4 people killed, 6 others injured. Cuba claims these passengers were sent from the U.S. to commit terrorism on the island. And Trump? Crickets. Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance shrug it off, saying, "We don't know what's going on." Seriously? This is international chaos, and the U.S. president is silent. We haven't even touched Iran yet, where U.S. intelligence is reportedly moving closer to a potential strike. Sources say the Trump plan is to have Israel attack first, provoke retaliation, and then step in. Meanwhile, protesters Trump promised to protect in Iran continue to suffer under the Ayatollah. Tens of thousands may have been killed, and yet, silence again. The pattern is clear. Trump talks a big game, but when the world burns, he disappears. From North Korea to Cuba, China to Iran, every major crisis is met with inaction, misdirection, or outright ignorance. And this isn't a small oversight. This is a president completely failing on the global stage while pretending everything is fine. Let's pause for a moment and take stock. North Korea is openly increasing its nuclear weapons. China is running military drills over Taiwan like it's a rehearsal for war. Cuba just killed Americans on a speedboat, and Iran is on the brink of another deadly conflict. And what does Donald Trump do? Nothing. Not a statement, not a plan, not even a hint of leadership. It's like he's disappeared from the world stage entirely. Meanwhile, the U.S. stock market under Trump is trailing the rest of the world by the widest margins in decades. The S&P 500 ranked 21 out of 23 developed markets. The Dow might look shiny on paper, but globally, America is falling behind. Investors are avoiding Trump's America, quietly voting with their money while he brags about his art of the deal. Meanwhile, the rest of the world is pulling ahead. Faster growth, stronger markets, better positioning, and Trump just pats himself on the back. And don't forget the United Nations. Russia's ambassador spouts propaganda. Ukraine's diplomats call him out. Yet the U.S. under Trump abstains from voting on resolutions supporting peace. No support for democracy, no clear stand against aggression. Just a blind, silent pass while the world's crises spiral. Everywhere you look, it's chaos, mismanagement, and missed opportunities. And Trump's America is nowhere to be found. And yet, somehow, the corporate media gives him a free pass. Not here. Not on this network. We're calling it as it is. Weak, absent, and failing on every front. Now let's dig deeper into the Trump regime's silence. Kim Jong-un is ramping up North Korea's nuclear arsenal, not just maintaining it, but expanding it aggressively. China has flown military drones over Taiwan 23 times since August, apparently rehearsing a full-scale invasion. Cuba just reported Americans killed on a speedboat, allegedly sent to commit terrorism. And Iran? Tensions are rising toward potential U.S. involvement in a conflict. And what is Donald Trump doing? Absolutely nothing. No public statement, no strategic response, not even a hint of awareness. This isn't oversight. This is neglect. The President of the United States, the leader of the free world, is missing in action, while the world's most dangerous crises unfold in real time. Let's not sugarcoat it. If any of this happened under Biden, Obama, or even Bush, the media and political commentators would be screaming, calling for investigations, demanding answers. But under Trump, crickets. Weakness has become the hallmark of his foreign policy. World leaders see it, and they are taking advantage of it. Meanwhile, the United States abstains from critical votes at the United Nations, failing to support Ukraine amid the ongoing war. Russia continues its aggression unchecked. China moves closer to Taiwan, and Iran's regime tightens its grip internally and externally. The US, under Trump, is absent from global leadership, and the consequences are mounting every single day. And it gets worse. While the world spirals toward chaos, the Trump regime remains stubbornly silent. Cuba reports a deadly confrontation with a US-linked boat, 4 killed, 6 injured, and Trump says nothing. No condemnation, no investigation, no action. Just empty excuses and a deafening silence from his administration. Meanwhile, Lindsey Graham and other GOP figures are raising alarms about Iran, but Trump's team is reportedly pushing for a plan where Israel strikes first, then Iran retaliates, and only then does the US intervene. This isn't strategy, it's reckless brinkmanship. Thousands of lives are at stake, and Trump is treating it like a game, as if history and human cost are just background noise. And don't forget North Korea. Kim Jong-un announces the expansion of nuclear weapons, openly defying international norms, and still, Trump doesn't respond. No sanctions, no public warning, nothing. China continues flying drones over Taiwan, rehearsing an invasion, while the US stands idly by. Global powers are moving without restraint, and the leader of the free world is nowhere to be seen. Every moment Trump stays silent, the US loses credibility, influence, and the moral high ground. Weakness has consequences, and the world is already feeling the impact. Now let's talk about Ukraine. 4 years into Russia's invasion, the United States is supposed to lead, supposed to stand with allies. But what do we see? Trump's regime abstains on crucial UN resolutions calling for lasting peace. Meanwhile, Russia continues its aggression, and the world watches as Trump's America fails to take a stand. Casualties keep climbing. Reports suggest between 1.1 million and 1.4 million Russian soldiers have been killed or wounded since the war began. And Trump's response? Silence. Not a word, not a plan, not a strategy. The US is being outmaneuvered globally, while Trump brags about the Dow, as if economic numbers erase America's eroding influence and the chaos abroad. And it's not just Ukraine. China's drone operations over Taiwan, Kim Jong-un expanding nukes, Cuba killing US-linked nationals. Everywhere you look, global instability is increasing. And Trump's posture? Non-existent, weak, detached. His inaction sends a clear message. America under Trump isn't the leader it claims to be. It's a spectator. Meanwhile, some hope flickers elsewhere. Countries like Hungary are pushing back against authoritarian influence, showing the world democracy can still fight back, even as Trump's inaction leaves the US isolated. But make no mistake, every moment Trump stays quiet, every time he refuses to confront these crises, the cost is measured in lives, influence, and credibility. Let's move on to Cuba and Iran, because this is where Trump's absence really becomes glaring. Yesterday, a Florida-registered speedboat entered Cuban waters and reportedly opened fire on Cuban border guards. 4 people aboard were killed, 6 injured, and Cuba claims these individuals were sent from the US to carry out terrorism. And what do we get from Trump or his administration? Silence. Complete inaction. Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance, they don't even know what's happening. Imagine if this happened under Biden or Obama. The media would be screaming, hearings would be called, and Trump would be front and center. But under Trump, this is just another day of American weakness on the global stage. Now, Iran. The US is allegedly moving closer to intervention, but here's the kicker. Trump reportedly wants Israel to strike first, let Iran retaliate, and only then would the US step in. That's not leadership. That's playing geopolitical roulette with real lives. And let's not forget the promises Trump made to Iranian protesters, telling them, "Go out there, I got your back." Yet reports indicate thousands have been massacred, with Trump nowhere to be seen. Meanwhile, Lindsey Graham is pushing for total regime change, calling Iran the largest state sponsor of terrorism with American blood on its hands. And still, Trump stays silent, letting others scramble while pretending America's interests are being defended. Every misstep, every silence underscores the chaos of a Trump-led foreign policy. Now, let's talk about North Korea and China, because this is where Trump's absence on the world stage gets impossible to ignore. Yesterday, Kim Jong-un announced plans to massively expand North Korea's nuclear arsenal, focusing on both the number of weapons and the operational capacity for use. No comment from Trump, no response from his State Department, no word from the Pentagon. Imagine if this happened under Biden or Obama. Wall-to-wall coverage, hearings, urgent statements. But under Trump, crickets. Total silence. Meanwhile, China has conducted at least 23 major drone operations over Taiwan since August, essentially rehearsing a potential invasion. Again, Trump stays silent, letting the world read these as signs of American weakness. And it doesn't stop there. Russia, Cuba, Iran, North Korea, China, all moving aggressively. Trump's administration? Nowhere in sight, refusing to lead, refusing to address these crises. And the corporate media? Covering it up, giving him a pass, while the world watches Trump's America fading into irrelevance. This is the reality. Global chaos, rising threats, and Trump MIA, letting others dictate the course of history while he pretends everything is fine. Now let's turn to Ukraine and Russia, another area where Trump's leadership, or complete lack thereof, is glaring. It's been 4 years since Russia invaded Ukraine, and yet the United States under Trump is barely even participating in meaningful diplomacy. The United Nations passed a resolution calling for lasting peace and a full ceasefire. But guess what? The US abstained. Not a no, an abstention. Let that sink in. While Trump claims to support Ukraine, he's quietly siding with Putin's agenda, helping bleed Ukraine of resources, while promising Russia a $12 trillion economic deal. Meanwhile, ballistic missiles and drones continue to strike Ukraine, with reports of escalating casualties. Trump's response? Nothing actionable. No leadership, no strategy, just silence. The world is burning, and America's supposed leader is playing spectator. Even Trump's allies in Congress, like Lindsey Graham, are screaming for total annihilation of Iran, while Trump's rhetoric during protests in Iran promised protection to civilians. But in reality, he left them exposed, abandoning his own words. This is a pattern. Global instability rises, Trump disappears, and America loses credibility. Yesterday, a Florida-registered speedboat entered Cuban waters, allegedly opening fire on Cuban Coast Guard personnel. The result? 4 people killed, 6 injured, and the rest detained. Cuba claims these individuals were on a mission to infiltrate the island and unleash terrorism. And naturally, Trump's administration had no comment. Not a statement from the White House, not a press briefing, nothing. Over in Iran, reports suggest the US is planning a strike, but not Trump himself. The strategy? Have Israel hit first, then let Iran retaliate, and only then intervene. This is supposed to look like diplomacy, but it's chaotic, weak, and indecisive. Lindsey Graham is screaming for total regime change, yet Trump remains silent while thousands of Iranians are reportedly massacred. And let's not forget China flying drones over Taiwan as rehearsals for a possible invasion. Again, Trump's response? Crickets. No leadership, no warning, no accountability. The message is clear. All hell is breaking loose globally, and Trump is AWOL, leaving America's allies confused and adversaries emboldened. Finally, let's bring it all home with Trump's domestic chaos and the global economic fallout. While the world is spiraling, from Kim Jong-un ramping up nuclear weapons, China flying drones over Taiwan, Cuba killing US citizens, to Iran on the brink of conflict, Trump is MIA. The United States abstains from critical UN votes, fails to articulate a position on peace in Ukraine, and Wall Street investors are fleeing Trump's America. Look at the numbers. Under Trump, the S&P 500 ranks 21 out of 23 developed markets. Markets around the globe are booming, yet Trump brags about the Dow hitting 50,000 as if that proves he's winning. Meanwhile, investors are actively avoiding the US, signaling shrinking influence and credibility on the world stage. Even in Europe, allies are scrambling. Hungary's Orban regime, a MAGA-style ally, is imploding in polls, while pro-democracy forces rise, showing that Trump-style politics are failing globally, not just at home. The pattern is unmistakable. Trump's silence equals weakness, indecision fuels global crises, and America's position as a superpower is eroding. The world moves forward, but Trump and his regime are falling further behind.